welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to be discussing the newest dream from Dana Coverstone, and then I'm going to bring you some good news. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, this is going to be some really hard, just difficult information. Some of the most difficult information I've seen in my 28 years in ministry. Then I'm going to go to some good news. So stay to the end because that's going to be the good news. Okay, first of all, this is just the dream. This is an edited version with all the stumbles and stuff like that out of it. Then I'll read it, we'll talk about it, then I'll bring you the good news. Dana Coverstone.
Hey, Pastor Dana here. Between Friday, August 28th and Thursday, September 4th, I had a series of glimpses and dreams that got longer each night. But I saw the calendar of December, and I saw a finger underlined slowly and like it was pushing, slowly and forcefully, under the name December. Flipped over to January and then underlined it just as slow and was pushing. First thing I saw was long food lines. I saw people waiting for what seemed like hours. And they were standing in line and not in cars. And I saw this throughout the nation. I saw ships in ports on both the east and the west coast. They were just sitting idle. There was nothing moving at sea. Nothing. And I saw a headline that said the Baltic Dry Index is dead. They said that nothing was moving in trade around the world. And one thing I noted, there were no Christmas lights. This was December. There were no holiday displays. There were no sales mentioned. No Christmas lights, no Christmas displays, no Santa Claus, no Easter, no Christmas type things going on at all. There was a great sadness over the land. And people seemed very dazed and they seemed very confused. But there were Christians who stood out because they had faith, they had hope in Christ. And they looked like burning charcoal. And they were carrying torches wherever they went. And a lot of people rejected their approach. They kept their faith. They didn't back down from telling people about Jesus. And they kept telling people that they desperately need Jesus at that moment. It was, you need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. Don't wait. You don't have tomorrow. You need Jesus now. And a lot of it was rejected. But there were some that were coming and surrendering and praying and being saved in the dream. Saw what looked like shopping malls that had been converted into shelters or living quarters. So it reminded me of Hurricane Katrina when it came through, and the football stadium. The businesses in those malls were shuttered, but I saw people on cots, and I saw food outreach things going on. I saw people who were misplaced. This was not like a homeless shelter. This was like something had happened and people were in shelters. I continued to see shuttered properties. I saw people in homes who were wearing coats. While the windows, they were looking at closed curtains, and that's been a consistent thing. People inside their homes looking out what's going on. But when people were looking out the curtains came back far enough that I could see more of the snow-like stuff that was on the road. It was dingy, it was dark, it was gray. It wasn't white, pure snow like after a fresh snowfall. I saw headlines that said nationwide outages plagued the Southwest. Another headline that said Americans don't know who to blame for darkness. And some of the darkness in the areas is stretched into Canada. It was north. It wasn't everywhere, but I saw America as lights flickering. And it was like I saw the whole contour outline of the United States of America, including Alaska and Hawaii. Like right before a light goes out, it flickers, it starts flashing. That was what it looked like. It was like America was a light bulb about to go out. I saw vultures. Food hanging out of their mouth. These vultures were heavy. A word I don't like to use is the word fat, but these vultures were fat. And they had rotting food hanging out of their mouths. I saw depression as a figure, as a creature. It had a face mask on with a smile, but it was choking people and pushing them down to the ground. And then I saw the St. Louis Arch, and I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch in very, very expensive business suits. All of them had very expensive watches, and at their feet were these briefcases, larger than briefcases, almost like, it reminded me of like a nuclear suitcase, a nuclear briefcase that they talked about in the 80s. Suddenly, all of their alarms went off at the same time, and they hit them, and they grabbed the briefcase, and they got into these black SUVs. And of course, the Mississippi River goes right through there. It divides the country. And I saw them get in the black SUVs, and they went east, and they were going all over the place. Each of them had a Wall Street Journal, a newspaper under the arms, and they had heavily tinted sunglasses. And the next headlines that I read were about market crashes, about yields being lost. One of the headlines declared sympathy for the swastika. I saw tired crowds. I saw tired people. I saw many who had lost the resolve to fight due to the emotional overcast of the nation. And I heard Christians, that group of Christians that was going around with hope, I heard them saying that they remember what Jesus had said about the winter and having to flee in winter. But they kept encouraging one another in their faith. I saw lights all over the country, and I knew that these lights were churches. And I felt in my spirit, did not hear this, but felt as I was watching this, that these churches were keeping warmth and hope in their communities. That white figure rose up out of one of those lights. And he said, brace yourself, brace yourself on the word and my promises, and do not rely on your own strength. This one left me more unsettled. I see him in glimpses. It's like a movie trailer. See a little bit one night, a little bit more the next night. More details are added. The scenes of people in the shelters, the food lines, the Baltic Dry Index being dead really stood out to me. I'm not going to try to interpret these dreams. I feel that as a watchman, I'm just supposed to share them. I just believe the Lord showed me things to warn the church. And look, if you're not prepared, if you don't have some of the food and things like that, you might be in trouble with that.
Okay, now let's talk about what the interpretation is. As he says, he's not going to give the interpretation, and actually that's probably smart of him, but I will. He says, I saw the calendar of December, and I saw a finger underlined slowly, like it was pushing slowly and forcefully under the line of the name of December, and it flipped to January. Then it underlined it just as slow and pushing, meaning that this is for December and January, and this is very important. Then the vision started. The first vision I saw was long food lines. That's not the first time we've been warned that this is coming. I saw people waiting for what seemed to be like hours standing in line, not in cars. Have we not had several people tell us that when these suitcase nukes go off, it fries the computer chip in the car and the cars will not start. They will not go any place. They are dead. I saw ships and ports on both east and west side. They were sitting idle. There was nothing moving at sea. I saw a headline that said, Baltic Dry Index is dead. Here's the dry index definition. This Baltic Dry Index tracks trading and formalizes exchange of securities and goods. That means that nobody, any place on the globe is buying and selling. It's all stopped. Now you can imagine the hardship that that's going to bring. I noted that there were no Christmas lights. This was December. There were no holiday displays. There were no sales mentioned, no Christmas lights, no Christmas displays, no Santa Claus, no Easter, no Christmas, any kind of celebration going on. It was a great sadness over the whole land. People seemed very dazed and confused. Again, I believe that that is from suitcase nukes going off. I do not think that this is the Russian attack that Dmitry warned us of. Not yet. But there were Christians who stood out because they had faith, they had hope in Christ. Again, have I not warned you that God told me that I was to build an end-time army of prophecy teachers working miracles? Well, here you go, brothers and sisters. It's all about to start. They looked like burning charcoal. They were carrying torches everywhere they went. A lot of people rejected their approach, but they kept their faith. They didn't back down from telling people about Jesus. They kept telling people that they desperately needed Jesus at that moment. They said, you need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. You need Jesus now. Don't wait. You don't have tomorrow. You can't wait. A lot of the message was rejected, but there were some that were coming and surrendering and praying and giving their heart to Jesus. I saw what looked like shopping malls had been converted into shelters or living quarters, like after the Hurricane Katrina, and people sheltered in football stadiums. The businesses in those shopping malls were all shuttered. I saw people on cots. I saw food outreach. I saw people who were misplaced. This was not just like a homeless shelter. This was like something bad had happened and people were in shelters. Again, I think that's pointing to suitcase nukes. I continued to see shuttered properties, people in homes wearing coats with closed curtains. In other words, it's not safe to go outside. It's not safe to go outside because of the suitcase nukes, and it's not safe to go outside because of the hoodlums roaming the streets. That has been a consistent vision, he said. People inside their homes looking out at what's going on. When I look at people looking out their curtains, I see more of this dark gray snow stuff on the road. Well, I believe that's ash from the suitcase nukes going off. It wasn't white, pure snow like after a fresh snowfall. I saw headlines reading, "National outages plague the Southwest." Again, a suitcase nuke. Another headline said, "Americans don't know who to blame for darkness." That's right, because these 20 to 50 suitcase nukes go off probably all the same day, maybe even all the same hour, and they don't know where they came from. Well, we know. Russia created them, but the international bankers, the Khazarian mafia, the deep state secreted them into America back in the 80s and early 90s, and they're the ones that set them off because the 182,771 sealed indictments got served, and a lot of these international bankers, these Moloch, these Baal worshippers, these child sacrifice, sex trafficking, these filthy, dirty people got arrested and got justice served up to them. So they do everything they can do, just like they told Benjamin Fulford, we rule this planet for thousands of years, and we're going to continue to rule it or we'll destroy it. Well, this is them destroying it. Americans don't know who to blame for the darkness. Some of the darkness stretched into Canada. It stretched north into Canada, but was not everywhere there. I saw America with lights flickering. Again, that's the suitcase nukes going off. It was like the whole country, outline of the United States, America, including Alaska and Hawaii. It was like a light before it goes out. It flickers and starts flashing. It looked like America was like a light bulb about to go out. Well, that's the suitcase nukes going off, just like Michael Boldea was shown them flickering on and off. I saw vultures with food hanging out of their mouth. These vultures were heavy and fat with rotting food hanging out of their mouths. I saw depression as a creature with a face mask and a smile, but it was choking people, pushing them back down to the ground. I saw the St. Louis Arch. I saw people standing under the St. Louis Arch wearing very expensive business suits and expensive watches. At their feet were large briefcases that reminded me of the nuclear suitcases that set off nuclear bombs. Suddenly, all of their alarms started to go off, and they grabbed their suitcases and jumped in black SUVs going off in all directions. I noticed each of them had a Wall Street Journal newspaper under their arms and dark sunglasses. In other words, these are probably your international bankers that just set off all of those suitcase nukes, and that means they're probably in charge of the nuclear weapons, and they go off in all directions when this happens. Then I saw more headlines about market crashes, yields lost. One of the headlines declared sympathy for the swastika. I saw tired crowds. Many had lost resolve to fight. Groups of Christians were going around spreading hope, saying, "Remember Jesus, had to flee in the winter," and kept encouraging people with faith. I saw lights all over the country. These lights were churches. These churches were keeping warmth and hope in their communities. Then the white figure, I believe that's the angel that comes to him, arose out of one of those lights, in other words, arose out of one of those churches, and said, "Brace yourself. Brace yourself on the word and my promises. Do not rely on your own strength." Now let's jump to the good news. This was given back in 2014 to Neville Johnson of Australia, who I understand has gone to be with the Lord now. He said, "A heavenly visitor entered into my room at 6:30 a.m. and said, 'Write this down.' I immediately recognized the visitor, having had a number of encounters with him in the past. He quoted the following scriptures. 'For thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once again, it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts.'" Now, obviously, he's talking about this thing that's coming. There's a great shaking in the land, and it's not just an earthquake, it's a financial earthquake. "The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, saith the Lord of hosts. And in this place will I give peace, saith the Lord of hosts. Haggai 2, 6-9. He emphasized the words, all nations, and desire. I knew that every nation in the world was about to be shaken in a very real way. His emphasis, by the way, this is the good news here in a second, his emphasis on the word desire was in relationship to wealth and precious things. He then quoted the following scriptures, whose voice then shook the earth. But now he hath promised, saying, yet once more, I will shake not the earth only, but also heaven. And this word, yet once more, signifieth the removing those things that are shaken, as the things that are made, as those things which cannot be shaken may remain. The emphasis on this passage of Scripture was the phrase consuming fire. He spoke about the shaking that would also release a baptism of fire upon those in the church who are pursuing the Lord and seeking His purity in their lives. Then a vision opened up in the front of me, where I saw the angel holding what looked like a very fragile, ornate cup and saucer. This cup was very thin and fragile. Written on the cup were the words, the nations' economies. I then was able to see inside of the cup, and on the inside of it, it was filthy. Then the angel said, quote, the economies of the world are like this cup, clean on the outside, but filthy on the inside. Then I heard a crack, and the cup began to crack and fell quickly apart into pieces. Then the scene changed, and this angel was holding a large man. Here comes the good news. A large man upside down by his leg. He began shaking this man violently up and down. As I watched, all kinds of things began to fall out of this man's pockets, such as gold, silver, inventions. Now, let me just jump in here. I believe that before us, there is a choice. Either we can go to the left and we can go down. We can go the way of Nancy Pelosi and KH and JB and some of those other people. We can go the way of communism, socialism, or we can decide we're going to fast for 48 hours and pray like we've never prayed in our life. We decide that we're going to pull down strongholds, send not just the ministering, protecting, and guardian angels, but the warrior angels out to tear the devil up in the heavenlies. And then we turn and we go up. Jeremiah 51 verse 9 says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let every man return into his own country. I believe that there are many times in our nation's history when we had to make a choice. And in the generations past, they chose to turn to the right, but now it's this generation's turn. And if we will turn to the right, if we'll turn to the Lord and decide to return back to Him, then He will bring the gold, the silver, the inventions, and those other positive things I'm about to read. But we are at a fork in the road. And if we do not do this fasting and prayer, and I'm not talking about just a few people, I mean, it's got to be a lot of people, and it's not just this meeting either, other meetings. And it's not going to just stop at the end of this meeting. If we will turn to the Lord as a nation, just like 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name, that's us, will humble themselves and pray and turn from the wicked ways. The turn from the wicked ways is the 182,771 sealed indictments along with us and the church. If we'll turn from wicked ways, then He will hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and will heal our land. Such things as gold, silver, inventions, which seem to be in connection with energy, as well as other inventions. There were cures, like certain diseases, also falling out of this man's pockets. Cures for such things as cancer, diabetes, asthma, Alzheimer's disease, and many other diseases. Cures for these diseases which already exist, but have not been released. They've been hidden by the pharmaceutical companies. This giant represented the world and the financial systems of this world. I watched this unfold as the angel again shouted the words, shake, exposure, transfer. Well, I believe we're about to go into the shaking. We're about to go into the exposure. We're evil in high places. That's within the church because judgment begins first at the house of God, and then there's going to be a transfer. If we can come through this darkness, I believe there can be a great light in our nation and in the world. But if we don't make it through it, then we'll go into our captivity, so says the angel that spoke to Sundar Selvaraj. He says, then I heard the Lord speak, one more time, I will shake the heavens and the earth. It will start first in the church, then in the nations. At this point, I began to see certain things happening in the world. There were exposures in the church hidden. Hidden things will come to light as a purifying work in the church gets underway. This will shock many people, as it is God at work. As 1 Peter 4:17 says, for the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of God. And if it first begin with us, what shall be the end of them that obey not the gospel of God? Events in government occur, which will cause a shaking in the United States that has never been seen before. Have we not been saying and hearing those words? We've never seen this before. The government will be in turmoil, and change will be forced upon the nation. Seeds of revival will begin to sprout in the UK in the midst of turmoil. The present Pope will continue to rise in influence. I saw him addressing the UN. His emphasis was peace and tolerance, which begins to lay the foundations for the rise of the false world church, which will grow in political power and influence, framing legislation that will ban any religion that is not part of this false world church. November 19th, 2014, Neville Johnson. Okay, so what do we do about this? We've got to make certain that our nation survives. We survive. So the first thing we need to do is go to watchmanstrumpet.com, read all the way through it, and get signed up to come and make your plans to be here one way or the other. We have got, look, how many people are going to pray for this nation? Pretty much the only ones that really believe that trouble is coming. How many people know about the Suitcase Nukes? You know what? Most people reading that dream, they wouldn't even understand what that's talking about. What do you mean that dark gray snow all over the ground? Well, we know what it is. It's fallout. We understand exactly. We've been talking about this for a long time. But how many people do not want to hear it? Brothers and sisters, if it is to be, it is up to me. Means we all have to join hands. I mean, we've got to lock arms in this solemn September Assembly, and we got to pray. We got to pray and pull down strongholds over our nation, or we're going to lose our nation. I know some people say, well, I can't get off. Well, look, if you don't come to this meeting, you can forget about your job. Oh, well, I don't have the transportation. I don't have enough money to come. If you don't come to this meeting, if we don't stop this, you can forget about all your money. Okay, in other words, the life that is holding us back from this meeting is not as important as this meeting. What? Now, wait a minute, think about it. If we don't get to this meeting, you and I, all of us together, if we don't join arms spiritually and physically, if we don't pull this down, we don't have to worry about that job. We don't have to worry about that house payment, that car payment. That car is not even going to start. This is the most important thing. I mean, like a racquetball buddy of mine said to me last night, he said, health is most important. Well, right behind health has to be our nation. I mean, we've got to do this. Watchmanstrumpet.com. Go get signed up. Watchmanstrumpet.com. Lord, help the people. Find a way to get here. Provide the ways and the means, all the finances, all the days off, everything they need to come. Second thing, you got to ask yourself, air, water, food. Do you have something to filter the air? If not, get it. Do you have potassium iodate pills so that when these suitcase nukes go off, if we can't pray it away, and believe me, we're going to try, then if they go off, then you can at least live. We've talked about that. Get the potassium iodate pills. That's at prophecyclub.com. First thing is air. Next thing is water. Get yourself a Berkey water filter. Yes, we offer them at prophecyclub.com. Next thing is food. No, we don't offer that at prophecyclub.com, but you can get that at heavensharvest.com. Promo code STAN. heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN. And yes, they just recently got a shipment in, and they are one of the few places out there that has any kind of long-term survival food. Most of them are 6, 8, 10 weeks out. And these guys are only a couple of weeks to get it to you. Depends on what you order. heavensharvest.com, code STAN. Finally, go to prophecyclub.com. You want to get the secret door to understand Bible prophecy, Miss the Mark, God's warning for America, Tribulation Secrets in Daniel, and How Pre-Trib Will Want. You want to get those 5 books, prophecyclub.com. So go to watchmanstrumpet.com, get signed up for the Solemn September Assembly, September 18 to 20. Go to prophecyclub.com, get the 5 books. And also, if you do not have any gold and silver, I know you can't eat gold and silver, but there's a time when we're going to need it, brothers and sisters. If you're going to need it, then you go to cornerassetmetals.com. Get yourself prepared. Get yourself prepared. I also just learned that Heaven's Harvest has more food in stock. That's right, freeze-dried, the coveted freeze-dried food in stock at heavensharvest.com. And if you put the promo code in STAN, it helps your Prophecy Club, and it also gets you a packet of heirloom seeds free. heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN, S-T-A-N, heavensharvest.com, STAN. In 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I was shown a secret door linking the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. For the first time, the book of Revelation can be put in correct chronological order. You can understand Bible prophecy. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 5. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 5 for 35 or 10 for 60. What is the most important information to every beating heart on the globe? After accept Jesus, it would be, don't take the mark of the beast. Those taking the mark of the beast do not get soul death, but are tormented in the lake of fire and brimstone for eternity. How do you tell them? Give them miss the mark. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, and 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. Over the past 32 years, I've collected the best 101 prophecies from Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldea, Leslie Johnson, Henry Gruver, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Marie Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, and more. It's called God's Warnings for America. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 5. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 5 for 35 or 10 for 60. My new book is called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel because that's what it does. It shows you the part of Daniel you need to know, being you're about to be a tribulation saint and will desperately need to know and understand about the last days you live in. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, and 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is owned by a prophecy student who reads his King James Bible and supports Prophecy Club. Call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com for gold, silver, palladium, rhodium bars, or coins that can help you roll over your IRA, 401k, so tell CornerstoneAssetMetals.com Prophecy Club sent you. The least favorite thing for Christians is a prayer meeting. Many people have been warned America is about to go into a storm capable of destroying our nation. This time, it's not enough to fast and pray separately. This time, we must assemble and pray. We're calling God's people to fast, pray, humble themselves, and seek God's face, asking God to forgive America's sin and heal our land. For once, American Christians must put aside our divisions and unite under Jesus' name for 48 hours, fast, pray for only one thing, our nation. Can American Christians put aside our divisions for 48 hours, fast and pray? Go to watchmanstrumpet.com, but don't look for any denominations or famous names. They're not there. Spots are limited. Reserve your place. Look unto God. Come fast and pray together for 48 continuous hours. Then, watch God begin to heal our land, or watch the devil tear it apart. Our choice. watchmanstrumpet.com. watchmanstrumpet.com. Each single Prophecy Club DVD is a gift of $30. In that you know the internet is going away one day, it is a good idea to actually have the disc. However, at watchprophecyclub.com, you can have instant access to over 200 titles on a recurring monthly subscription of $20 or yearly for $200 at watchprophecyclub.com. That's $6,000 worth of information at watchprophecyclub.com. That's watchprophecyclub.com. What a deal. The easiest way to listen and watch Prophecy Club YouTube videos is to download our free app from the App Store. This is not to be confused with watchprophecyclub.com, where you can watch 26 years and over 300 DVDs for a subscription of $20 a month or $200 a year. Click like, share, and subscribe.